Hello, this is Michael for the Outdoors Survival, and I'm here to talk about wild muscadine grapes. Um, there's a lot of great-looking plants out there that you really got to watch out for. You have the Carolina moonseed, which is a little red berry. You have Canadian moonseed, which is a blueberry type of blue-looking grape. And then you have cup seeds, and then you have pepper vines that can look like a grape as well. But all the leaf patterns are a little bit different. But normally, when you squeeze into the seeds, you'll actually tell which plant you got if you didn't know how to just look at it. But once you're in the woods and you see enough of it, you'll kind of understand which ones to look for. Now, Virginia creeper is part of the grape family, and there's a lot of debate if they're edible or not. A lot of people say they're toxic. Some people say they're edible. You can eat the roasted or whatever. Best if you don't know and you don't have clear enough information, just stay away from it unless you have an expert show you and um, and know that it's edible. Here's just a typical muscadine vine. They get extremely large. They get as large as this. Sometimes I've seen them as large as this big around. And those vines, basically, you can just go up to the top of the vine, chop as high as you can, and then chop the bottom. And then you can hold it like this, and you can actually get uh, water from the vine. But you don't want to go around killing all the muscadines unless you're just traveling straight through and you need some water and you don't have any water. That's a good water source. But don't go in your backyard and start cutting down every muscadine you see to get a little bit of water. You're only going to get like this much out of a big humongous stalk vine. And that's just going to quench your thirst. And you just killed a lot of food source. You didn't kill the plant. It'll just send up new suckers like this, new shoots that come out the sides. But it'll take years for that to come back to be exactly what it used to be if they're way up in the tree. Now these muscadines they can grow in a clear cut. They'll just grow on the ground, and you'll see them real close to the ground. They'll be about this um, strong, this thickness, usually when they're on the ground. And once they hit a tree, they'll start going all the way up to the top of the tree until it covers the whole canopy. A lot of squirrels will be up there at this time of year. This is August. A lot of squirrels will be up there eating on the fruits, and you'll know you got a muscadine plant, especially around a riverbank. You'll start seeing the little berries dropping all over the place, and you can just pick those off the ground. But just for you to for uses, you can see this is a strong rope, so you can actually make a rope out of that, and I'll show you in a minute. But here's a typical muscadine leaf right there. You'll see it almost heart shaped, but you'll see these little teeth that come out the side of it. Now there's all types of grapes out there, but they pretty much have the same characteristics, just different leaf patterns. But you got a vine, and normally what happens, this is August, and the tendrils have actually dried up. You'll see like a little curly tendril that comes off. Now in the springtime, about April and May, these are very tender, and you can just pluck them off and eat them. And they're actually pretty tangy, but they're it's a little nibble out in the woods that you can enjoy. The leaves in the springtime are edible as too. You can actually take the larger leaves. Everybody knows this, and you can soak it in vinegar. The bigger grape leaves they use in stuffing rice and pine nuts and raisins. It's a little Greek dish or a Jewish dish that people do, but they'll just take a bunch of these, lay them in a jar, soak it in vinegar in a jar, and they'll soften up. And then you just take your rice and stuff, and you just roll it, and you'll get that little burrito-looking thing that you see in the supermarkets. That's actually pretty good. I've eaten a lot of those. But normally, what you'll have, you don't see it here right now, but you normally will have a leaf, a tendril, a leaf, a tendril, a leaf, a tendril. The tendrils will be on the opposite side, but because it's so droughty, they dried off and just fell off, or the animals actually ate them, so they're not there. And so without that tendril, you don't know if you got a grape or not. So the next key is to go and look at the fruit. That's actually going to be on the tree at the time. But here, you can take a simple rope and just pull the leaves off, And you can get the branch like that, figure out which one's actually the strongest one, and just go down there and you can see how that's all to the weaker one. And you just go like that. And here you got outdoor rope that you can tie, make baskets out of, but you can tie logs to trees, do all kinds of things with it. I've actually used humongous vines. I cut them down. I was on a Mogi River in Georgia one time, and it was in the flood, and I needed to cross that river. I was going to be flooded out. So what I actually did was take humongous vines, and that they were this big, and I took my backpack and I put it on the end and I let it go with the current and it flowed across the river, and then I just followed along with it, holding on to the rope. And once I got to the other side, I was holding on the rope, and I could let my ex-wife go across as well. And she was holding on to the rope while the current was trying to push her downstream. You see, this is extremely strong. So if you need rope real quick, gather these from the ground. Don't pull the muscadines from the tree. You're going to hurt your back in the first place. They're way up there. And so the best thing to do is, if you have a thicker vine, need a thicker vine, you can go ahead and try to cut down, but try to get a thicker vine that's on the ground. But that is extremely, extremely strong. So there you go. Outdoor cord that you can do all kinds of stuff with it. But if you're going to be out there and doing a lot of woodcraft, and you're going to do a lot of edibles, I highly recommend you get a pot at least this size. You can get one actually bigger. And what you can do is you just turn it upside down in your backpack. You can cut the handles off if it doesn't fit. Just shove it down over your clothes or whatever. A light, good stainless steel pot with a semi-heavy base on it. That way it doesn't burn out. It'll actually burn out. But anyways, even if you didn't have this, you can use a piece of bark, and you can use anything, a rock or whatever. But you pretty much take your grapes in there. And what I like to do is, if I have water, I like to wash them off. And the reason being for that is you'll be surprised how many insects will come up out of that water. And it's not bad that if you eat them, but there could be dust in the air that collects onto these, and you're grinding your teeth, especially if you're like on a dusty road collecting these. The dirt from the road is going to get up on the berries, and you're going to be eating a lot of grit, and that will grind your teeth out in a while. But you just pour the water off, and like I said, you can just take these while you're gathering. You can eat these as you're going. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20-something years, almost 25 years. And I check every time. I don't care how good of this, how much I do this, I always double check, make sure I got it. I might be cranky that morning. I may not have my brain going well, but if I go through this test, I see it 1,000 times. But if I know I did that, I finally got a grape. I don't have to worry about being something poisonous and going, oh, I made a mistake. But you basically take your pot or whatever, take a rock, and you're just going to smash this. And what you're doing is you're squeezing the juice out, and that way you can have grape juice. Now, if you had a juicer or whatever out there in the wild, you can do that. Another thing is you can put them in a blender. If you had a blender at the house, you can just add a little bit of water to it, hit it in the blender. It's all going to liquefy, and then you strain the juice out that way. Squeeze it, and you have juice to go. But don't throw the pulp away, because you can actually use that to dry and say for adding spice to bread or something like that. But basically, you're just basically squishing it, and you can see if I was in a dire emergency and I needed some water real quick, but I didn't want a lot of food, there you go. Very, very tasty. And you got juice. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to pulverize this down to little itsy bitsy pieces, and then I'll slowly dry or roast it over the fire. And that way I can store this for long periods of time. And very, very delicious. Now that was 3 cups of grapes. And what'll happen is if you actually dry it and powder it, that's with the seed and everything. If you look right there, that is 4 cups of grapes. That's seeds, everything included. And so it's a sweet powder. You can take this and mix it with the acorn bread, like I talked about earlier in my other video. You can take this and mix it with water and make a nice little grapey tea out of. All different kinds of things you can do with this. You can use it as a spice, like a meat coating spice, so you have a little tangy meat. So you can have this stored up. This is pretty much 1 day's worth of grape. Now, think of it like this. If I collect blueberries, I have all that blueberry stuff. Then I had blackberries I gather. And then I come in and get the muscadine. And then I'm getting persimmons. And I'm gathering each one of those fruits, not including the mulberries and the maypops and all that. I'm gathering all these fruits, and each one of these can be 1 serving per day. So I get my fruits and vegetables almost in a sense. I'm getting muscadine, persimmons, and so on. And I can mix all that together, and I can make a big soup out of it. I can just eat it raw. I can make a big drink out of it and eat the leftover residue. And I'm getting a lot of vitamins and a lot of stuff. And that's how the Indians got through the winter. And you gather this. Say I gather 4 cups of this, and I want to gather this and have 4 cups of grapes a day, and this equals out to a half a cup of grapes when you're done, and it's all dry. So I would go out, and for 365 days, I know that I need at least to gather 91 gallons of grapes, and so when I dry that up, I have enough grapes to last throughout the whole year just for myself. So an average person for 4 cups a day, which is a lot, is 91 gallons. And so you can pick 91 gallons of grape. It may take you a week to do that, to dry it, but here you got food the rest of the year. You don't have anything to worry about. I'm going to go ahead and show you different ways of doing this. You can literally just take that and add water to it and just kind of make the juice of the grapes. And if you squeeze grapes and you try to make a jam out of it, what's going to end up happening when you make the jam, it's going to crystallize, and it's going to be like eating glass. You don't want to. If you're going to make jam out of this, don't squish it. Put it in a pot, simmer it, and let the juice leach out. And that way it doesn't crystallize. The moment you squeeze, you got crystallized jelly, and it will stick you just like glass. I'll get right back to you. Okay, this is the grape that I, after mashing up, it still has the juice in it. I got to tell you that when I processed this, I squeezed the juice out, and I ended up with that. I added a little bit more water to it to tone it down, but I'm going to make something out of this as well. But this is the juice from 4 cups of grapes, which is dry. This didn't have the juice on it. So what I'm doing here is leaving the juice on this one. And this would just be like a tree bark right here. You're just laying down, cut a square piece of tree bark, or it could be a stone on a smooth stone by the river bank or whatever that's receiving a lot of sun. You want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on this if you're drying it in the sun, so the ants, the birds, you name it, they're all going to come up here and try to eat it. And you want to square it up so it kind of doesn't, the juice doesn't get so thin it starts crystallizing. Which will actually happen. This juice right here will actually crystallize into a sugar, and you can actually eat it. Extremely, extremely delicious. But we're going to dry this at 170 in the oven, and we'll see what happens. Make sure you watched part 2 of this so you can see the end results of some other stuff and some wonderful process of cooking. Get back with you soon. Watch part 2.